Morning, everybody. So, welcome to Compassionate Response to COVID-19 with my body. So, this morning I'm going to be looking at a topic of venturing into the just this. I came across this amazing picture of this this Thai monk just lying down with this huge, great tiger, so there's this tradition of in Buddhism of, well, the Buddha and his followers kind of just basically lived in the forest and then came into the villages to just beg for food and then went back into the forest again. So it's really part of the Buddhist tradition. So I'm going to look at this, what this represents, or what the benefits of going into the forest are, and what it might mean today, in the modern world. Similar sort of thing, really. Yeah. Okay, so let's do a bit of body work. So just swinging our arms backwards and forwards. And I just try to just let go of your body. So we can spend a lot of our time just kind of holding on, thinking that holding on physically, kind of thinking that this will kind of protect us. But all it does is it just gives us tension through the day. So we need to find regular times to stop and undo some of that tension and recreate a sense of spaciousness in our experience. And life consists of different conditions, so while these conditions are interconnected, they're also separate. So, body and mind are separate. Body exists on the kind of physical world, physical plane, and our mind is the abstract world of ideas and thoughts. So we have to deal with each of those different conditions in the appropriate place. So we don't deal with the body by thinking about it. We deal with it by doing something with it, like this. Actually acting. And then the body gets into a different state, and then that has a positive effect on our mind. So our mind, becomes clearer if we can generate some energy, some chi in our body, the right amount of it, not too much, not too little, not too much. So Buddhism is very much the middle way between extremes. In meditation, we're recommended to not, to have not too little sleep, but not too much sleep. Same with food, recommended to have not too little food, not too much food. Because otherwise we end up in what we call hindrances to meditation. Slothfulness or mental torpor or restlessness, anxiety, those sorts of things. too little stimulation or too much stimulation. So we need to look after our body so that it becomes the best support for us in our lives in terms of our mind and our emotions. So I think at the weekend I took a day and a half off and just did nothing. Well, I did a solitary retreat, so I just read books and did some exercise and meditated a bit. Monday morning I really felt much clearer in my head, and I think part of that was because I've been relaxing with putting my legs up the wall, stretching the backs of my legs, and just working on a much more thorough level with things like stretching and relaxation and stopping with the body. Okay, so just do the other side. So point the other leg forward and rocking backwards and forwards again. So it's good if we can build up a bit of a habit of regularly doing some gentle body work. What today in the secular mindfulness movement they call mindful movement. So it's a bit like spinning plates. When you get somebody to spin a load of plates on sticks, and they have to keep going back to get the spinning going again when the plate starts to wobble. So it's like that with things like our body and meditation. You have to kind of keep going back and get the plate spinning again. And I think the best way of going about this sort of thing, is to because we're so in such a habit of trying to use our will to make life happen. Kind of make things in life happen. I've got to try harder. I've got to do that. Sort of thing. And the Buddha says that things don't really happen through acts of will. They happen because they happen naturally because we've got the conditions in place for them to come about. So rather than tiring ourselves out with thinking, I must do some body work, I must do this, I must do that, it's much better to just work with awareness and sort of try and remember, why would we do that? What's the benefit of it? So we keep trying to keep a bigger perspective going. So this is why I think awareness is so important in Buddhism. All right, so just rotating our hips. So it goes to the four corners, so to the back, to one side, to the front. Just being deliberate and keeping mind and body in the same place, so one's not ahead of the other. So we're training not just our body into a better state, but our mind to stay with it. Training our attention to go to whatever we would like it to go to. This is something we have to practice to improve. And then just this sort of movement like stretch, pushing and twisting. Just holding it there. And then move away. Pushing and then twisting. So looking for some sort of effect, what do we want to happen? Probably with this movement, we'd be looking for some energy in our spine, sort of twisting. Okay, shake everything out. And then take a seat for meditating. I'm a bit tired this morning. Okay. So what we're going to do meditation-wise is the Metta loving kindness meditation. So I'm just going to say a little bit about this, just to remind us if we can't. It's easy to forget anything really. So basically, a simple way of seeing meditation is that the bottom line for all, they want to be happy and not suffer, and be fulfilled and have meaning in their lives and all that sort of thing. And this is the case for all living beings, all sentient beings, who experience pain and who have some sense, even animals have some sense of their lives and their kind of what completion it would be with that, or satisfaction would be with that. On some level, I think all living beings have some kind of self-possession or something, so if we want to bring happiness to ourselves and to others, then we need two things. First we need to want it. So loving kindness is an emotion. It's like, and emotions are often about wanting something, so we want a new computer or a new car or something like that. But with care and kindness, we want our own want to do well, ourselves to do well, or we want ourselves to be in a better situation. So that's the first thing, loving kindness. And then the second thing is we need to bring awareness to our situation. Because it's awareness that tells us what we need to do to bring happiness about. So we bring awareness to our body, and it tells us that it needs to relax a bit more because it's in a bit of a tense state. So that's what we do. So mindfulness is inextricably linked with bringing about happiness. And metta has like three kind of basic qualities or characteristics. So firstly, it's universal. So this is the thing where it applies to all beings everywhere. So because beings desire to be happy and not suffer, then as Buddhist practitioners, we try and take that on board and get behind that and actually wish it for them, be behind their welfare, So Buddhists tend to be vegetarians, vegans, because they don't want to cause harm to living beings. So universal is the first characteristic, and then the second characteristic is it's unconditional. So we don't kind of like care for ourselves or other beings in order to get something back. Because it is its own reason. We don't need to, we just do it because it's needed, So it's unconditional. So that's helpful to know. And then the third thing is that it's potentially unlimited in intensity. So, as with any emotion, we can feel it a little bit or we can feel it a lot. So we can want a new car a little bit, or we can be obsessed with getting one. And it's the same with loving kindness. We can feel a bit of care and concern for others, or we can be passionately, behind their welfare. So today, before we do the meditation, I'm just going to point to this picture. So here we've got a Buddhist monk lying down next to a huge full-size tiger. So in Thailand, so originally the Buddha lived in the forest, and him and his followers would have kind of come across like wild animals all the time, the Buddha said that when you experience fear, the thing to do is to just carry on doing whatever it is you were doing. So it's like you don't alter your activity. You don't kind of like disrupt your life because some things, you're afraid of something. So, if he was walking down the path in the jungle, he'd carry on walking down the path. If he was lying down, he would carry on lying down. He wouldn't run away. Also, he taught that his followers should be constantly radiating loving kindness out towards all living beings. So with some passion and intensity. So what would be going on there would be, if the Buddha encountered like a tiger or something, he would be naturally just thinking of its welfare, and be thinking of his own welfare as well, because he's a living being as well, But there wouldn't be this sort of, I suppose, kind of tensing up and fear kind of like response. There would be some kind of like more open, like kind of relaxed response, because as well as teaching loving kindness, he was also teaching acceptance of impermanence. Him and his enlightened followers would not be thinking, oh, I'm going to live forever. I need, they'd be thinking, conditioned things are impermanent. I could, think I could die at any minute, really. So there's a kind of open acceptance of fate, whatever kind of life brings him in each moment, but also this kind of compassion for life. So you kind of wonder what the tiger would, how the tiger would have responded to to that, because we all we do resonate, don't we, with other beings and what they're doing around us, and if somebody's just really calm and self-possessed and all that, that's quite attractive. So you just kind of wonder how an animal like a tiger, unless it was like really very hungry or something, how it might respond to a really sort of peaceful, kind of warm, kind human being. I suppose you kind of like thinking in your own experience, what happens when you come across somebody who you feel really impressed by in that sort of way, maybe you do like not worry so much about food or whatever, because it's quite a sort of special kind of experience, really, to have a sense of like unity with another being, I suppose like people who have pets, they probably feel this quite strongly, don't they? You might have a pet, and you really enjoy that feeling of connection with your pet and stuff, and maybe you project onto them some of your own calm and qualities and things. Anyway, yeah. So I just thought I'd mention that before we do the Metta Bhavana, this idea of the Buddha in the jungle, and his followers, and actually this time, I'm assuming it's a Thai monk. Here, he probably the reason why this is, the monks doing this is that in Thailand they had a tradition called the forest tradition about 100 years ago, roughly, where they were trying to revive this living in the forest lifestyle. There were monks. There's one of them called Ajahn Mun, and they used to practice kind of going into dangerous situations in the jungle and being around tigers and stuff like that. Just as a way of kind of recreating the original conditions that like the Buddha was in and stuff. So yeah, so there will be a kind of a kind of cultural aspect to this, where people be like Shaolin monks, kind of in China. People kind of know all about it, and they go, "Oh wow," they're impressed, So probably kind of, yeah, it's probably kind of part of might be part of the tourism in Thailand or something, But anyway, yeah. But there's a real point here about uh, coming into relationship with monks, coming into relationship with tigers and stuff. They've actually done it. It's not. It's in a real way. So I think. Anyway, so yeah. So before I waffle on anymore. Yeah, I was just looking it up at the forest tradition, and I came across an article where some temple in Thailand was, kind of. You can't tell really what's with some of these things, especially with worldwide regulations around treatment of animals and trafficking and all that sort of stuff. It might be that the temple was kind of completely innocent about having all the tigers and everything there, but the authorities went to this temple and took away 137 tigers and basically created a zoo to put them in. So yeah, it's a lot of tigers, isn't it? Apparently, there's 3,000 still around in the wild. Okay, so let's do the Metabhavana, and after that we'll look at the story of King Ajatasattu and the Buddha in the forest, meeting the Buddha in the forest. Just letting your body sit there. And just balancing your spine so that your weight goes down into your seat and the ground. Tuning in with how you're feeling at the moment. Noticing, what your general emotion is at the moment towards yourself. So there are basically three possibilities. You can be feeling a sense of warmth towards yourself, care towards yourself, may you be well, that sort of thing. You can be feeling indifference, and you could be feeling criticism of yourself. And just recognizing that emotion doesn't come from nowhere. It comes from your view about yourself. So if you're seeing yourself for what you are, which is a human being who doesn't want to suffer and wants to be happy, then it is natural that you want to care for yourself. If you're seeing yourself as a bit of an object, it's quite likely that you'll feel indifferent towards yourself. And if you see yourself as a object in your own way or something, then you'll probably feel criticism towards yourself. So it's about shifting our view towards being more in line with what we actually are. So if we can see ourselves as a human being with feelings, we will probably end up wishing ourselves well. So in the second stage, metta bhavana, bringing to mind a good friend. So not taking too long to choose somebody. And directing any kindness that we've developed, any care, any gentleness towards our friend. Noticing what our actual emotion is towards our friend. So friends are often people that we find pleasant to be with and usually probably helpful to us as well. And maybe at times they can become a bit like an object of pleasure. But maybe trying to shift our view of our friend to be more about what they are in themselves, to be more about their experience. Wishing them well. And that well-wishing will probably just happen if we see their humanity. We don't need to try and churn it out through an act of will. Now just pick somebody who's neutral, who we don't have any strong feelings for or against. Maybe we see them a little bit as an object. So can we see them a little bit more for what they are, which is a human being with hopes and fears. So now bringing to mind somebody you find difficult. We might, in our imagination, just kind of, we bring to mind like imagine that we're in the jungle and we've come across a tiger. Is there any way that we can move our view of them from being an object in our way to being a living being, needing to survive, needing to eat, to have a number of needs met? Can we see things from their perspective? And therefore wish them well. So now bring to mind all 4 people that you've used in the meditation. All 4 beings. And then just adding more beings into consideration. People that you live with and live near you. May they be well. People in your local area, town. And animals, birds, fish, insects. It's expanding out to include all living beings everywhere. Okay, so venturing into the forest. So this is one of the main books of the Buddhist scriptures. It's called the Majjhima Nikaya, which means the long discourses of the Buddha. So it's got kind of scriptures that are kind of the longer ones. And so there's a scripture called the Shramana Phala Sutta. So the Shramana was a wandering mendicant. So in the Buddha's day, there were many kind of wandering mendicants who were kind of seeking the truth and trying to find moksha or liberation. And Gautama was one of those, and he eventually found liberation. He became enlightened. He became the Buddha. He was awake. So the Shramana Phala means the fruits of the homeless life, the fruits of the wandering life. So the story begins. It says the scripture begins. Thus have I heard. once the Lord was staying at Rajgaha in Jivaka Kamarabach's mango grove, together with a large company of some 1,250 monks. At that time, King Ajatasattu of Magadha, having gone up to the roof of his palace, was sitting there surrounded by his ministers on the 15th day, fast day, the full moon of the 4th month, called Kamudi. And King Ajatasattu, on that fast day, gave vent to this solemn utterance: Delightful friends, is this moonlit night. Charming is this moonlit night. Auspicious is this moonlit night. Can we not today visit some ascetic or Brahmin, to visit whom would bring peace to our heart? So it's a beautiful moonlit night, and the king's sitting on the roof of his palace, and but he's disturbed, really. He's saying, can I not visit some holy man who would kind of help me kind of be more at peace in my heart? And so basically, King Ajatasattu his father was called King Bimbisara, and he was a really kind king who was a big supporter of the Buddha. But probably the reason Ajatasattu felt kind of disquiet was that he had actually murdered his own father, and he's feeling uneasy. So sometimes when even when we're faced with beauty, it's like a beautiful moonlit night. If our kind of if we have regrets, things that we're unhappy about, within ourselves, it's hard for us to kind of just enjoy that, that beauty, because we've got this kind of disquiet. So his ministers suggest various ascetics, and what happens here in the sutta is a list of all the main kind of alternative teachers to the Buddha, some of whom had all sorts of weird and wacky views, like actions don't have consequences. There are no consequences to any actions. You can do what the hell you like. I think that's one view. Just all sorts of like different views. And Jivaka, who owned the mango grove that the Buddha and his 1,200 disciples were staying in, so they would stay. Often they would get kind of given places to go, by people who are maybe wealthy merchants and things. So Jivaka says to, well, actually, he doesn't say anything. He says at this time, Jivaka was sitting silently near King Ajatasattu. The king said to him, "Why are you silent, Jivaka?" And he said that Jivaka says, "Sire, there is this blessed Lord, the Arahant, the fully enlightened Buddha, staying in my mango grove with a large company of some 1,250 monks. And concerning the blessed Gautama, this fair report has been spread about. The blessed Lord is an Arahant, a fully enlightened Buddha, endowed with wisdom and conduct, the welfarer, knower of the worlds, incomparable trainer of men to be tamed, teacher of gods and humans, enlightened and blessed." So this is a standard description of the Buddha: teacher of gods and men, humans, incomparable trainer of humans to be tamed. So the king decides that he wants to go and see the Buddha. So he gets his whole big train of, royal procession together. 500. Here we've got. It must be mythology. 500 she elephants made ready. And the king on the royal tusker. And he placed his wives each on one of the 500 she elephants and proceeded in royal state. It says, when King Ajatasattu came near the mango grove, he felt fear and terror, and his hair stood on end. And feeling this fear and the rising of the hairs, the king said to Jivaka, "Friend Jivaka, you are not deceiving me. Are you tricking me? Are you delivering me up to an enemy? How is it from this great number of 1,250 monks, not a sneeze, a cough, or a shout is to be heard?" And Jivaka said, he reassures the king that he's not deceiving him. He says, "Look, there's lights burning in that pavilion over there. So that's the scripture. So in a book called Tales of Freedom by Vasantra, he goes into this story. There's the tiger. He goes into this story, and he expands on it a bit more poetically. So yeah, Jivaka points out the glow of light through the trees in the distance, which he says comes from lamps burning where the Buddha and his followers are meeting. Somewhat reassured, the king urges his elephant down a small track that leads towards the light. After a while, the track becomes too narrow for the beast to follow. The king dismounts, leaving his entourage of wives and servants, and walks forward through the trees with Jivaka to guide him. Following the glow of lights, they soon come upon a clearing. Here they see a great assembly of Buddhist wanderers, all sitting in meditation, silent and unmoving. Facing the assembly, his back to the pillar of the pavilion, sits the Buddha. He too is seated in meditation, his still figure emanating a thrilling silence that permeates the clearing with serenity, just as the moon bathes it with radiance. He goes on. The pair steal forward between the ranks of the meditators, and then the king, so used to striding about and issuing commands, stands respectfully and quietly near the Buddha. In that charmed circle of concentration and loving kindness, he finds himself at peace in a way he had not experienced since he took over the kingship. While he waits for the meditation to come to an end, he looks around at the serene gathering and then whispers to Jivaka, "I wish that my son, Udayibada, could know the same peace that there is in this assembly." The Buddha ends his meditation, slowly emerging from the deep pool of silence that has filled the grove. He greets Ajatasattu warmly, which is a relief, as the king has not been sure what kind of reception he might receive, given his past deeds. After they've exchanged polite inquiries, Ajatasattu feels that the time has come to ask his question. Much hangs on the answer. The king had put his question to other spiritual leaders, but he never received a satisfactory reply. So he asked the Buddha, are there tangible benefits for practicing the life, the wandering life? demonstrable as those gained by people who follow ordinary trades and professions. So the king's asking a kind of very practical question. He's probably a very practical man. He's murdered his own father to get the power of the throne, and that's very practical, isn't it? It's like, see something you want and take it. But what he's asking is that what is that I could that people who follow ordinary trades and professions would appreciate hearing about, that's a benefit of this life. So, what do you get out of it? Basically, he's saying. So the Buddha sort of starts off by saying that he says, first of all, if one of the king's slaves were to join the Buddha as a homeless wanderer, and so where previously the king would have ordered him about, then the king would now pay him respect. So that's one benefit from the spiritual life. So by joining the Buddha's followers, they tended to be respected. So that was something that's a benefit. And then the next thing is, he says, well, is there anything else? And the Buddha says, well, by listening to my teachings and becoming, developing confidence in them, then and then living ethically and following the precepts, then those the practitioner becomes happy because their ethics are in line with how things are. So they're practicing things like truthfulness and contentment and loving kindness and awareness. And they, through practicing these things, they overcome the hindrances, hindrances to meditation like slothfulness and restlessness and torpor and doubt and things like that. And it's as if they've been freed from debt or from prison or from slavery. This is it's like the experience of like, the relief that something's been lifted off me, And then the Buddha goes on to describe higher states of consciousness that the monks get into, called dhyanas. So when the meditator overcomes the hindrances, they've been ethical. They start to feel happier because they don't have any regrets and things, and then that happiness then leads to, that is a what's called a spiritual form of happiness. So it doesn't have a downside. It's like you're not happy because you have something and then it can disappear. If you feel glad because you want people to do well, and they do well, then you feel happy. There's no downside to that, that sort of thing. So when he knows that these 5 hindrances have left him, gladness arises in him. From gladness comes delight, and from the delight in his mind, his body is tranquilized. With a tranquil body, he feels joy, and with joy, his mind is concentrated. Being thus detached from sense desires, detached from unwholesome states, the monk enters and remains in the first dhyana, which is with thinking and pondering, born of detachment, filled with delight and joy. And with this delight and joy born of detachment, he suffuses, drenches, fills, and irradiates his body, that there is no spot in his entire body that is untouched by this delight and joy born of detachment. Just as a skilled bathman or his assistant, kneading the soap powder which he has sprinkled with water, forms from it in a metal dish a soft lump, so that the ball of soap powder becomes one homogeneous mass bound with oil so that nothing escapes. So this monk suffuses, drenches, fills, and irradiates his body so that no spot remains untouched. This, sire, is a fruit of the homeless life, visible here and now. Again, a monk with a subduing of thinking and pondering, by gaining inner tranquility and oneness of mind, enters and remains in the second dhyana, which is without thinking or pondering, born of concentration, filled with delight and joy. And with this delight and joy born of concentration, he so suffuses his body that no spot remains untouched. Just as a lake fed by a spring with no inflow from east, west, north, or south, where the rain god sends moderate showers from time to time, the water welling up from below, mingling with cool water, would suffuse, fill, and irradiate that cool water, so that no part of the pool is untouched by it. So, with this delight and joy born of concentration, he so suffuses his body that no spot remains untouched. This, sire, is the fruit more excellent and perfect than the former ones. Again, a monk with the fading away of delight remains imperturbable, mindful and clearly aware, and experiences in himself that joy of which the noble ones say, "Happy is he who dwells with equanimity and mindfulness." And he enters it and remains in the third dhyana, and with this joy, devoid of delight, he so suffuses his body that no spot remains untouched. Just as if in a pond of blue, red, or white lotuses, in which the flowers born in the water grow in the water, not growing out of the water, are fed from the water's depths, those blue, red, or white lotuses would be suffused with the cool water. So, with this joy devoid of delight, the monk so suffuses his body that no spot remains untouched. Again, a monk, having given up pleasure and pain, with the disappearance of former gladness and sadness, enters and remains in the fourth dhyana, which is beyond pleasure and pain, and purified by equanimity and mindfulness. And he sits suffusing his body with that mental purity and clarification, so that no part of his body is untouched by it. Just as if a man was to sit wrapped from head to foot in a white garment, so that no part of him was untouched by that garment, so his body is suffused. This is the fruit of the homeless life, more excellent, perfect than the ones before. So this is the Buddha's. This is the description of the four dhyanas, or the four higher states of consciousness that can be attained in meditation. So maybe just sit with those images of an image of absorption. So you have an image of the first dhyana, which is like soap powder and water mixed together. So the soap powder is absorbed by, the water and soap powder can absorb together. So there's not too much. There's not an overflow of one or the other. So what maybe that indicates is a kind of like a sort of self-possession and not needing anything from the outside world, just sitting peacefully in meditation without any sense of looking outside of yourself, or just a contentment coming from your physical experience and mental experience, a peacefulness, spaciousness. And then into that peacefulness and spaciousness, there comes the upwells like a stream of inspiration. So like cool water entering up into this lake. It's this image for the second dhyana. So it's like it's as if something's coming from outside of yourself that's inspiring. Maybe we when we feel a bit inspired, it feels like that, doesn't it? It's like, it doesn't feel like we're doing it. It feels like something is coming from, as it were, somewhere else. Like the muse or an idea coming from somewhere else. And this idea, this inspiration, just kind of like affects us, and it just lifts us up. It's like an upwelling of energy. And then the third dhyana is of images of lotus flowers, red, blue, and white, immersed in water. So lotus flowers are kind of an image of kind of opening and of unfoldment, in a way like spiritual unfoldment. So at the level of the third dhyana, it's like the person is becoming quite skillful and capable, able to be to kind of match their response to the world as it actually is, so that they're adaptable and flexible. Those sorts of mental states, not rigid, not brittle, sort of things. And so the lotus is immersed in water. So water is often a symbol for the unconscious, and so it's a bit like the unconscious is like involved in some way. It's not like we're kind of becoming surprised by things coming from left field. It's like there's a deep kind of peacefulness there, a deep happiness that in the knowledge that in a way all kind of bases have been covered, or something like that. And then the fourth dhyana, you've got a man who's had a bath, and then he's sitting on maybe in a pool, a lake or something, and then he's sitting on wrapped in a white cloth, and he obviously, like, maybe he's had a bath, so he feels clean, but there's this sense of something protecting him, this cloth, this white cloth. So white is a symbol of purification. So it's as if like he has this kind of like an aura around him of a protective aura. But the fourth dhyana is associated with equanimity. So it's like he's not, his happiness isn't dependent on, isn't affected by pleasure or pain. He's not diverted by things being difficult, or by things going well, or getting. So he'd be impervious to things that would seduce us in the world, to give up or to get intoxicated about our successes, So the Buddha's calm, even, level-headed, straightforward, not distracted by pleasure and pain. So just coming back to the forest, the idea of the forest, and you might think, well, it must be hard to meditate in a forest, because there's just there'll be all this like noise going on all the time, and kind of things distracting us, like you worry about a spider biting you or crawling across your leg as you're meditating. How can that be like conducive to spiritual practice? You'd think it wouldn't be, wouldn't you? And I mean, I know myself that when I was on my ordination retreat for 4 months in Spain in 1997, that I found the heat oppressive. Like it was in Spain in the summertime, and it would get like to be sort of 80 degrees. Like sort of I don't know, 7:30 in the morning or something in the middle of the summer, and I found it really hard to not feel distracted by that heat and stuff. But I suppose it's, in a way, what you've got is a relatively simple existence. You do have the discomforts or the realities of nature around you and all of that, but what you don't have is all the kind of normal things that the people around you who the kind of conventional life or something like that. It's like the distractions of work, having to do work, or having to respond to things in society, or so the great thing is that as long as you get the comfort side of it sorted out and the danger side of it sorted out, then it is a place of kind of freedom from it, in a way, sort of freedom from influence. So I suppose the monks would go into the village. The idea behind the alms round is that the monks sort of go into the village and stand in front of a house, with a begging bowl, and then whatever the person puts in that's what they take away and eat. So they just accept whatever they're given, and so it's like what happens is they get rid of that problem of just the survival in as quick a way as possible. So they get some food, go back to the forest, eat it, and then the rest of the time they're free to practice awareness and loving kindness and acceptance of reality and acceptance of nature and its dangers and everything like that. So everything becomes like a teacher, really. So I don't know who it was that gave a talk at the Manchester Buddhist Centre on this topic, venturing into the forest. It might have been Santra, who wrote the book Tales of Freedom. It might have been Sona, I can't remember now. I've done some notes on it, and so in this talk, whoever gave it says the forest is like a symbol. It symbolizes leaving the everyday hurly-burly mind and venturing into the depths of consciousness, leaving behind any persona, social mask, with Ajatasattu, the king, he says, going to the forest is like is moving beyond defining himself by his social position, and it's a bit like King Lear, just being on the heath, just another human being, being cold and going a bit mad with it all, really. Just but having to kind of face the reality of things beyond sort of like social position. So, and maybe it's in meditation. There's a bit of a inner journey from the kind of safe sort of palace of the surface mind to the inner forest of unexplored levels of consciousness. So, I think we can. I think when we do something like a solitary retreat. It's almost like we can be turning towards aspects of ourselves that we're trying to sort of avoid all the time, bits of discomfort and bits of things that we're not happy about ourselves, And I think that in a way that it's the only way we can deal with stuff is to stop and retreat from the world and actually kind of like just gently face that discomfort, face that, and kind of deal with it. And so it might be something about ourselves that we need to sort of accept that we feel uncomfortable about, or it might just be simply our kind of like relationship to ourselves. Maybe we aren't kind of all that regularly having some care towards ourselves, and maybe we do treat ourselves a bit like an object and beat ourselves up, push ourselves around a lot, So we just have the opportunity to like the Buddha. I mean, that image of the monks sitting in silent meditation, like 1,250 monks in the forest in the moonlight. I find that such a beautiful, powerful image, So it's like saying it is really possible to be at peace and in nature in a beautiful experience the sort of simple beauty of life. And I do remember on my ordination retreat, at night sometimes I'd kind of go up the end of the valley, and it was like it was a valley kind of about 2,000 feet up, and at one end that valley turned in, it dropped down into another valley which was at sea level. It's almost like at sea level. And I remember this, you used to get this fog sometimes would like roll up the valley, and then it would pour off the end of the valley into this other valley, like a waterfall, Unbelievable, beautiful thing. Or you get crashing, get the thunder and lightning crashing about, and if you're high up, it feels like you're right up there within it, So there's something about opening to life, and like I said the other day and I was reviewing a video I'd done about if you can't take in the difficulties in life, and, painful emotions and stuff, you can't really take in the joys either, So I think there's something about maybe just kind of stepping into the forest and, symbolically being a bit like the monk with the tiger. And so you kind of taking towards yourself some aspects that you would normally kind of want to avoid, and you're kind of facing them in some sort of way. But in the facing of them, there is a sense of satisfaction, and kind of you feel good about yourself, don't you? When you've tried something and you've stepped out of your comfort zone, and you've survived. You've not died. You're still here, but you kind of feel a bit more alive in some sort of way. So we can be all kind of slightly hiding in our cosseted, material worlds. But on some level, if we're not coming out of that world and getting into the forest in some sort of way, getting out of our routines, or doing things that are a bit sort of challenging, then we don't feel so kind of good about ourselves, really. So anyway, so I hope that was interesting and helpful in some way or other. I really like that image of the tiger and the monk, and also the image of the Buddha and his disciples all sitting, his 1,250 disciples all sitting, meditating in the moonlight, and the king coming and just feeling the peacefulness of the situation, even though he'd done a lot of harm in his life and killed himself. Actually, what the conclusion of that story is that the king says, "Oh, if only my son could experience this," And after the king had left, what the Buddha said was that if he hadn't have, killed his father, King Bimbisara, then on, hearing my teachings, he would have attained stream entry, which is like the, kind of you kind of guaranteed to attain enlightenment, within 7 lifetimes. So, basically, because of his own karma, he's still in that rut of, kind of, he's not free from that karma, so he wouldn't be able to really kind of leave and make the progress that he might have done if he'd not done that action. So that's it. All right, hope you have a nice day. See you later. Bye.